I was trained, I was raised, reared, they say. Reared, you raise chickens, you rear people.
That's old school right there. Yeah.
I raised you right.
That's right, I raised you right. I was reared up. I was brought up, okay, to actually, it was a mandate that I had to give back, period.
Dr. Johnson, welcome to the Sheltuh Podcast.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to the information that we will share.
Yes. So before we get started in your illustrious career, initially, what brought you into orthopedics?
Orthopedics. I was an athlete. I was an athlete throughout high school and college. I was a scientist, and I love people. So that led me into medicine. Orthopedics in particular because of my sports interests and endeavors. And surgery because as an orthopedic surgeon, you can take care of patients, you can operate on them or not. I was actually going into PM&R, physical medicine and rehabilitation, was my original residency. But I felt that as much as I wanted to work with the athletes, I wanted to be able to take them from their initial complaints all the way through anything if they needed surgery. So that's what led me ultimately into orthopedics.
So you talk a little bit about the importance of having, being an orthopedic surgeon and serving the community at large. Absolutely.
The community needs orthopedic surgeons, especially the black community. The black community, and in particularly the socioeconomically disadvantaged, they need to have specialty services. And it would be great if we could have subspecialty services within the specialty, but as an orthopedic surgeon, at least I can offer that in that community.
Now, I've had opportunity of being in your clinic, seeing how you interact with the patients, and it really hits home for me because I have no interest in practicing outside of my community because I see the need.
I have interacted with my patients the way I am, whether throughout all my years. When I went into residency, they told me, well, you'll be so different when you finish training because everybody changes and then they become fancy. I was like, and the day I left, they were like, you didn't change, you never changed. I'm like, I guess I like the way I am. So I didn't have any significant reason. Of course, you improve yourself as a person, but as far as my interaction, that's a gift that I was given by God. So my interacting with people, and I am the same way in Inglewood as I am if I'm in Indiana. So I was there for 14 years. I'm going to people's houses way back up in Rolling Prairie, Indiana to basically biker restaurants because those were my patients and I love my patients. And so I went to visit there. I've been to my patients' homes in Inglewood, throughout Chicago. So it really is more what I hope my patients feel and what I hope I give them is to let them know that they're important. That I'm trying to get to understand you. You will know some things about me as a person and a surgeon. And so that way together we can work to help you with whatever ailment. And so when people feel that you're invested in them and that you actually genuinely care about them, it makes a huge difference in outcome.
Yes, and you know it's so funny because a lot of times that sense of ownership, it gets overlooked within our community. Because a lot of times if I know as a future physician, I want you to, yes, abide by the treatment program. But if there's no ownership on your end, it's just not going to go through.
Absolutely.
Right? And so not only with regards to, you know, educating your patients and you, that ownership that you have for your own self-identity is going to feed off to your patients. And that only compounds the benefit with regards to their own treatment program. So I really thank you for that, because honestly, as I go through my own journey with regards to what orthopedics is for me and how I want to, you know, leave my legacy behind, being ownership of who you are and being genuine to that ownership is critical to your overall impact as a physician. Because if you're not owning up to who you are, your realness, you should tell your patients ain't gonna live up to that. You feel what I'm saying? And so,
right, and your patients should understand that you're human. That, you know, people would I've had patients tell me, well, you've never had to work. What? I started out, you know, when I went to college, I went early to secure my job in food services. Let's be clear, to secure my job in food services. I was still a varsity track athlete. I was working in food services. People coming through, they always, you know, laughing at the one who, would you like beans? Would you like potato? What do you want? on the line here, that's all we have. No, the hot sauce is back there. Whatever. So, you know, people look down at you. So people, and you know, it's like, look, I'm here for a purpose. I had to make this work, study, money. That's what I had to do. That was my job, make it work, study, money. And later on, as I climbed the ranks within the food services businesses on campus, and I became a manager, then people wanted to talk to me about getting a job, especially around the holidays or whatever event that they needed to amass some money. And I was the one who was hiring and firing. And there were one or two people, I was like, I distinctly remember you laughing at me freshman year. So it's going to be hard. You need to maybe find another manager, because my feel for you, if I wasn't good enough then, I'm the same person. I'm the same person. I'm the same person. Except I would just happen to be behind the line, and you want potatoes, you want beans. That's it.
So our first question, we want to talk about the importance of vitamin D.
Ooh.
And the role vitamin D plays in musculoskeletal health. And the reason why we want to talk about that is that the musculoskeletal system is what essentially allows us to carry ourselves.
That's right.
Throughout the day. Can you touch a little bit about the importance of vitamin D and musculoskeletal health in the community?
Vitamin D, most people have been trained and taught, and what you see on television and in the media at large, they've been taught that vitamin D essentially is only for bone health, but it's for more than bone health. And over time, and especially it was found out with elite athletes, over time they found out it also helps with muscle fatigue and maintenance. So vitamin D is critical in bone health. Let's not forget that. But what they're finding is that vitamin D also, it has other uses. It's very important in the immune system and maintaining the immune system. It helps with the muscle strength, and so like any mineral, it has multiple jobs, multiple functions. It's the one that's most popular and most known is its relationship with calcium, which is critical, because what people don't realize, if you might take in a lot of calcium, but vitamin D allows you to absorb the calcium. So if you don't have sufficient vitamin D, then you can't absorb the calcium. You don't get your calcium, you can't maintain your bones. And calcium also is important in blood clotting. Calcium is also important in the immune system. Calcium, you know, it's in the pathways to make your nerves twitch and things like that. So you need to have your calcium, but to get your calcium, your vitamin D has to be in place. Now, vitamin D is converted and only made from sunlight. We can take it in as a supplement, but we make it, but it's only activated into the form that it can be used from sunlight.
Okay.
Us who have been kissed
by the sun.
By the sun.
Like your brother here.
That's right. We have been kissed. Thank you very much. We have been kissed by God's Son. We do not absorb the rays as well because we have melanin. So melanin protected us back in the day, you know, knowing our history, from malaria, etc., in Africa. But now, with vitamin D and needing the conversion, it hampers that. So we have to have more, or we have to make sure we intake it. I am doing when I'm able, on the appropriate patients, I should say, I obtain vitamin D levels. And one of the reasons I started is because I had a gentleman who was a significant athlete. He was an elite athlete in what he did. He wasn't a professional athlete. And he had 2 stress fractures. And I'm talking about a very handsome, well-built black man who's had 2 stress fractures, and you're 30?
Okay.
You're less than 30. And so then I had to start paying more attention to bone metabolism, etc. And his vitamin D level was horrible. I was the first one to even think about his vitamin D, vitamin D as being part of the issue, not just repetitive motion from him doing his training, but why are you breaking bones? I mean, you're a prime athlete. And so I test people routinely, and I hate to say it, 90%.
90%.
I would say approximately 90%, and especially since my population is people of color. I mean, brown and black, mostly, well, but people say black, but whatever your skin hue is, but black people, and I would say absolutely at least 80%, and I go so far as to say 90. So now it's incumbent upon me and you. We have work to do.
Right.
Yes.
All of us.
As we say, everybody, we got it, everybody. Okay, all the us's, all the us's and we's have to do the research for the non-elite athlete. They've done it on NFL players. Why? Because an $8 billion, more than $8 billion industry. When you and your black self get injured, my money's not. That's
my bottom line is affected.
Okay, the owners, the fan, not even the fans will pay the money. So when it comes back to it's your calcium, it's your vitamin D, but us regular folk who are just trying to make it from A to B, when we have muscle strains, it still affects us negatively in many ways. When your leg is hurting, it's hurting.
So I'm glad you brought up the effects of vitamin D. Can you talk a little bit about what happens in terms of when the bone breaks? I mean, you mentioned the bone breakage, osteoporosis, right? There's no sign, it's an outward sign for that. It's silent, right?
It is silent, and the vitamin D deficiency is silent. Osteoporosis, your calcium metabolism, silent until you break something, but when you break something, for instance, you'll have what's known as a fragility fracture. You don't fall hard, it's like me falling from this chair. If I fall from this chair and break something, then obviously my bones are not healthy. They're not where they should be. Unless, of course, one of you threw me out, and then maybe it'd be different. I have more force, but just plop out of the chair, no. And we have to realize and recognize that it doesn't bring you pain. And if people don't have something looking funny, feeling funny, they usually don't move on it. They don't act on it.
Especially within our community.
Especially within our community. Now, I hate to say it, people have been saying for years for white people to, get your son. But see, they didn't realize, since we're protected, and that's why we don't get the skin cancer at the rate we do. Our melanin, melanin is incredible. Don't get me wrong, but we have to also know that we have to amass our vitamin D elsewhere, because it is a silent, I won't say it's a silent killer, because people aren't dying from vitamin D deficiency. Now, there are extreme cases, but not in the United States, not in developed countries. But it is something that hampers you, and it can affect you negatively. And if it goes awry and you don't have your calcium coming in, then you start getting bone problems and muscle problems and immune problems, and then it goes on from there.
Yeah. On a personal note too, this vitamin D and overall health and wellness and morbidity of that is very personal too, because I have my own mother.
That's right.
Phyllis Furlow, and
hi, Mom.
She's gonna come after you for saying this. But go ahead, brother.
If we're gonna use her life to help an issue, we got to do it.
You do okay.
So my mother specifically, she twisted her ankle.
Right.
Okay. And a week later, twisted it again. Long story short, then she found out she broke her foot in 3 different places.
Right.
And her vitamin D levels were extremely low. And so, that really hit home for her because she was active.
And right. And what made you get the vitamin D level?
Her foot was already broken.
I know, but even for someone, even after people break
Right.
sometimes, and I remember talking to you because I met your mom,
Yep.
and so just saying, get that vitamin D level, and she will have a better future as far as breaking bones, etc.
Right. Also, too, my bad, brother. One thing too that I'm really, on the flip side of that, my grandmother was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when she was like in her early 20s, and one research has been out there is that
That's right.
people who don't have who are vitamin D deficient or calcium deficient are more prone to autoimmune disorders such as multiple sclerosis.
That's right.
And she's been in remission for the past, since I've been alive, for about 27 years.
Wow.
And she's adamant about her supplementation. So with regards to vitamin D and calcium, are there any supplemental things that people can bring into their lives that sort of combats that and helps them with that?
That's a good question.
Well, you mean when you say supplemental things, you mean foods?
Like foods or like,
We just have to. We're not working the fields anymore, people. We're not getting our exercise. Let's put that on the table in general.
Yep.
We're not doing it on a day. It's not our regular routine of life.
Okay.
We don't get up and go out to the fields. We don't get up and walk long distances to where we have to go. We hop in the car and go around the corner and then get out and fuss about why there's no parking space. So having lost that, we've lost a lot, because a lot of bone maintenance is actually the stress that you put on your bone as well. But that's a whole nother topic.
Like weight-bearing exercise.
Right,
and all that
weight-bearing
stuff.
exercises. But you have to, the green leafy vegetables, it makes a difference. Now they're fortifying. There's a reason that you have vitamin D fortified, calcium fortified, orange juice, milk, even soy milk, almond milk. They're fortified with these vitamins because it's important. They are important. So we have to watch what we feed, what we eat, what we feed ourselves.
Yes.
That's critical. And I'll give you a personal example. My daughter, who is now a freshman in college, she has played tennis since she was 4 years old. So she's a gifted tennis player. And Mommy used to always take that vitamin. Mommy, do I have to take vitamin? Do I have to take so many? Why have to take so many? I'm like, this one is for, this is for digestion, probiotics. This one's your multi, and here's your vitamin D. Well, she goes to college. You don't quite take the vitamins, even though Mommy gave you vitamins. And for the first time in her athletic career, she strained a muscle, her hamstring. Because she's working out, she's in boot camp, and it was right before her first tennis competition. She pulled the first time, and she's very muscular. So all of this time, when she was taking vitamins, albeit not that she wanted to, but I think that's my personal example. Like your mother, that's the first time that she's pulled.
So you just said something. You just said the muscles and have an interaction with bone. And oftentimes when we think of vitamin D, we think the relationship is strictly due to bone, right?
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about that interaction, that interplay there, in terms of why lack of vitamin D could lead to straining the muscle?
Well, I'm not going to act as though I know the
mechanism.
physiology,
Right.
Because that's not true. But vitamin D has been shown in various studies to be associated with muscle fatigue. And now people are going toward testing vitamin D level. If you strenuously train more than 4 times a week, you should have your vitamin D level tested. If you're a collegiate athlete, elite athlete, you should have it tested. I'm not saying that you should test everyone, but in the black community, it's very different. There was a paper, an editorial done by Dr. No and Dr. William Neal, who you both know, who will be graduating from medical school in a couple of months. But anyway, they did there was an editorial about the importance of vitamin D and maintaining elite athletes. But in that, it talked about how it's critical, especially since the NFL and the NBA have such large numbers of black athletes. And they have shown that at one of the NFL combines, another study showed that 70%, the black athletes were tested, 70% came in deficient versus 13, as they say, of Caucasian and Polynesians. That's a huge difference when your athletic population is 60 to 70% of all your athletes are black, and they're coming in with numbers like that. So there is some muscular affiliation with vitamin D. It's newer as far as all the importance of what vitamin D does. So
what can people do to get their vitamin D fix or enough so that they're maintaining adequate levels?
Supplement.
Okay.
Or get out in the sun. And it's not just peep your head out, but every little bit helps. Don't get me wrong, every little bit helps. But of course, if you're going, we don't want people to overdo it. We too need to protect our skin with a sunblock. Just because we are graced with having melanin, but it doesn't do everything, and it can't do everything. So you need to still protect yourselves from the other rays, because there are other rays that come from the sun. So you need to still protect yourself. But sun is number one. Get outside, get outside, get outside. Leave the computer alone. Leave the gadgets alone. Get outside. But supplement.
All right. We're going to talk real quick about diabetes, because it's so important to our community. Could you just touch a little bit on the effect of diabetes on the whole body?
Diabetes it encompasses and affects essentially every cell in your body in some shape, manner, or form. Because there's direct correlation with the effects of diabetes on your vasculature, and because vasculature brings the blood throughout your body, the blood is what makes your body stay alive, stay vibrant. You can't live without blood flow.
Right.
And what's in the blood flow? Well, you can in a hyperbaric 100% oxygen, but anyway, that's a whole other story for another time. But you need to have blood flow. And because diabetes affects the vessels affect the organs become compromised, your skin becomes compromised, your arteries, your veins. It truly is encompassing, and the nerves, because when you don't have your vessels can't get to the nerves deteriorate. So it really is total body encompassing.
Now I've been in your clinic as well, and one thing that's a really big topic that you talk about your patients that you do on a daily basis is wound care.
Yes.
And can you please talk about, because a lot of times, the whole point is of checking your feet, how simply by checking your feet could possibly save your life. Can you talk about that?
Especially in diabetics. And people with diabetes, do not be afraid to take off your shoes. When you go get your annual checkup, take your shoe off, kick it out in front of your doc, and say, don't forget to check my feet, check my dogs, whatever you want to call them, check my hoofers, whatever.
Right.
Check these, and check in between your toes. Dry in between your toes when you bathe. All of that's important. But for diabetics, and most people, I want everybody to be clear, an ulcer is a sore. That's what a lot of people call a sore. Different from their types, and the wound care is the overall, the overall encompassing umbrella. But diabetics, and not only their feet, but they get, because the vessels are compromised, a lot of times they get the swollen legs, and then you get an ulcer from consistently swollen legs. So really, not only they have to check their feet, diabetics themselves have to check their feet. If not, get some wonderful, loving relative or person to check your feet. Make sure your docs check your feet, because depending on whether or not you're neuropathic, 50% of diabetics will lose what's known as protective sensation, which means that they can step on things and not feel it and just keep going. They can cut their foot, not feel it, and keep going. When they look down, they're wondering where the blood came from. It's your foot. So, and we have had cases where people have come in with a tack in their foot and not know that it's there.
Really?
But then by the time they realize it, they wonder where that smell is coming from, and it's because now it's infected. So like you said, it can be life-saving, but check your entire body. But because your feet are at the end of your vasculature, the vessels and the blood flow to your feet is not as good as in your hands.
Right,
you really have to check your extremities.
Right, because it's further away from your heart.
With regards to overall just motion and how important motion is with regards to not only orthopedics but in life in general. Can you talk about how, just as wrapping up, how a lack of motion can lead to the cyclical nature of depression, cyclical nature of just disenfranchisement? How does that relate to overall health in general?
If you don't move, I hate to say it, coin a phrase, that's my own phrase. If you don't move, you lose. You lose many things. You lose your happiness, that I would say your depression.
Mm-hmm.
You do not lose weight because you're not moving. It goes along with promoting people going outside. Go walk around the block. Walk around the block. So it is cyclical. If you don't go outside, if you don't move, you sit, you become sedentary, joints ache, then you can't move as well. You become depressed because you're not the person you want to be, and then it goes round and round. So people should understand that there is a cycle, and you don't want to get on that. That's a treadmill you don't want to get on. Of lack of mobility, then your joints become stiff. I had a patient who I replaced her knee joints, and she was so thankful. She said, "I saved your life." I was like, this wasn't major trauma. You know, I didn't give you a new heart, something like that. But she said because they let her mother sit in a chair, become unable to walk,
Right.
and she got some wounds, became contracted, and died. And so she said because she could walk, that's what made the difference. So you have to, it's a cycle, and you don't want to get on that roller coaster.
And it's mental just as much as it's physical.
Mental disease, the mind, remember, the mind controls everything, everything. So your mind, that's why if you meditate and things like that, your blood pressure goes down. So your mind controls everything, your muscle movement, your blood pressure. If you get, probably some association with diabetes, because if your mind is healthy, because people don't associate mental health, and it is healthy. Don't be afraid. If you're prone to depression, get something to help you not be depressed. If you have whatever other mental illness, and illness is an illness, you go get it checked.
Right.
And help yourself out. Try and do a total body, head to toe,
Gotcha.
care.
Okay.
So we appreciate you coming on our show and just disseminating this information to our people. At the Sheltuh Podcast, we like to put our audience in the driver's seat to be able to control their own health outcomes.
Absolutely.
And so this will not be the last time we have you on our podcast.
I'll
we,
be back.
and we're looking forward to it.
I might twist your arm a little bit, but I'll be back. But
Also,
thank
too,
you.
for our audience, how can they reach out to you with regards to, be a part of your energy and your services at St. Bernard?
Call the office, as they say. I'm not hidden. St. Bernard Hospital, Department of Orthopedics, Orthopedic Clinic, and we do take essentially all Medicaid products, which is rare on an outpatient basis. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. We appreciate
And of course,
it.
they can always contact the show.
Oh yeah, contact the
fine
Sheltuh.
gentleman.
You can holler at Leslie Monu. My Instagram is K_Furlough. If you guys want to reach out, I would definitely let you guys reach out to the good people. You can contact Dr. Johnson and get this thing moving forward. Appreciate it.
I'd like to commend the two. Oh, we're gone.
We gone?
I'd like to commend.
Are we good?
Oh, I'd like to commend these two young, energetic, intelligent black men for bringing this information to the community. I know that you're still in school and all of that entails, and I appreciate you reaching out to people such as myself, and I will help you in any way I can to help continue to disseminate and support the black nation.
We appreciate
Thank you.
that.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Peace.
Out.